So you're probably wondering how I got into a cult and how I got out and how I created my own religion and all these questions that are valid, but I have to start from the beginning. So, when when I was like growing up, I was raised Catholic, but I never really connected with the religion. You know what I mean? It was just like I was a child, and Catholics are so like what is it called? Something like that. Anyways, like they're like the church, like the church that they would have like I'm like, what is that word? Anyways, but when we would go to church, like it wasn't like directed towards kids. Like it wasn't even directed, like no one knew what was going on. Like it really wouldn't tell you like ways to connect to God and things like that. It was just like, I don't know, so formal and like boring and no personality, and I don't know, it was just horrible. So no offense to Catholics, but yeah, so when I was a kid, like as you can imagine, like a kid would not be interested in that, and they, like they would just not want to go or not care about it or focus on other things. And really, like I would just like play quietly by myself or with my siblings, or I associated it with getting candy because my grandma always had a bag full of candy. So those were like the things that I associated with, not really like God and religion and anything. Like it was just like, I have to go, but I'm gonna get candy. So growing up, and then okay, so after that, that was like when I was really young. Then there was like a period where we wouldn't really like go to church anymore, right? Whatever. Then when I was like a freshman, maybe. I want to say I was a freshman. So I was like 13, probably. My friends went to this church, and it was a Christian church, right? So they were like, oh, you should come, whatever. And so I was like, okay, like, you monkey see, monkey do. What my friends are going to do, I'm going to do too. So I went to the Christian church with them, and it was so personable, like they made like God and Jesus and the Bible easy to relate to and to understand. And like they're just, I don't know, like it wasn't so like boring and structured or whatever. Like it was just like, oh, you know how you do this, well, this is what Jesus meant when he did this, like he's just like us. And it was just like easy to get into it like that. So I started loving to go to church, like I wanted to go to church. I wanted to go to Bible study and like youth group and like whatever. And this was like my church. And keep in mind, everybody in my family was Catholic. And I mean, Catholic and Christian, they're kind of the same thing, but not really. And so my whole family was Catholic, and I converted myself at 13 years old to Christianity, right? I converted myself to Christianity, and I would go to church every Sunday, every Wednesday. Like, girl, I was there. I was there regardless if my friends were going. At this point, it had nothing to do with my friends anymore. Like, I loved the church. I love my pastors and like my church family, and like I just love learning about God and Jesus and everything. So I was having the time of my life. My mom would like take me to church every time, and she wouldn't come with me. Like she would just drop me off and then leave. And then we ended up moving, and I loved my church so much that we moved an hour away, and I would still make her go every Sunday to drop me off to go to church. Like I was like, no girl, like we're going to church. And I mean, I could have found a new church, but like, I was already like so connected there, and that's where I felt like God. And then yeah, so either way, I didn't want to move churches, so I didn't. So every Sunday I would still go. I just wouldn't go on Wednesdays because you know, we got school the next day and it's an hour drive, and then while we're at church, you know. Anyways, but yeah, I would still go every Sunday, and like I was on my game, right? Then I was such like, and when I say this, when I touch your hand to say this, like I was a Jesus freak, like the biggest fucking Jesus freak there was. Like I ended up converting my whole family, like my uncles, my tias, my mom, my sisters, you know, my grandma, which was the last one to convert, all to Christianity. After I went to Christianity, everybody went to Christianity, right? So I converted everyone because of how, like, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I love it, like I love God, like I love Jesus, like I'm learning so much, blah blah, whatever, like all this stuff, right? So I converted my whole family, and I was the definition of a Jesus freak. Like I would bring him up in every conversation that I had. Like there was nothing that we could talk about that I couldn't link back to Jesus or God or the Bible somehow, you know. And that's annoying, like I know that's annoying, like, but yeah. And I didn't care what my friends said, and this is because I hold my friends very dearly to me, you know, like I love my friends so much. And I'm a Cancer moon, so I get attached to people really easily, and like I love my friends, you know, but I love Jesus and God and the Bible more than them. So I was like, I don't care, like, you know, I'm gonna talk about this. And like obviously they didn't care because they still stayed my friends and stuff, but like I was annoying. I would talk about Jesus and God and whatever, constantly, you know, constantly. Like I knew the ins, the outs, and everything of the Bible. Like I knew how to pray for people. I knew, like I would talk to God and like whatever, you know, like just I was that girl, right? And this was up until, okay, so then when I was a junior, I started dating this guy. He was older than me, and he was actually an atheist, right? So he was an atheist, and I would talk about Jesus so often that this man, and we would have arguments because like he was an atheist. He believed in science, which like I don't think this is considered an atheist, but anyways, he believes in science. And so we would have like deep discussions, like arguments about like Jesus, and like he was like, there's no Jesus, like blah blah whatever, right? And I would like literally be like, no, look. And when I'm arguing, I'm gonna get all the facts, everything I could discover, like, you know, I'm gonna win this argument. And he's the same way. So we would like argue so hard about our topics. I was so insane about Christianity that literally this man who didn't believe in God, didn't believe in Jesus, believes in science. He considered himself an atheist, but I really don't think that's an atheist because he believes in science. But this man, he literally converted to Christianity. Started going to church with me and everything. Like that's how fucking insane I was about this shit. But so really everyone around me, I was just converting people, like converting left and right, you know. I was getting everyone, and it wasn't even like, oh, I need to convert these people. It was really just like I spoke so highly about like Jesus and God and the Bible, and like I would talk about it nonstop, you know. And so people just had no choice but to listen to me talk about this. And then eventually they were like, okay, like, you know, she's making valid points, like I see it, like I feel it. And then eventually they would convert too, and they'd be like, okay, I want to see your church. And then they would go to church, and then like, you know, it's just like a snowball effect. But all these people I was converting, like I really was like insane about this topic. So then I went to a new church. This was my uncle's church, right? I went to a new church, and I really like that church too. I love the pastors. Even to this day, I love the pastors. Like, they're great people. They're great Christians. I love them. Um, it's just like the other people in the church that were kind of weird that I see now, but like I didn't see it then, you know? And I love this church. I love going to it. And I had like a great time. You know, I would always cry, you know, while like listening to the word of God, and you know, pray for people and stuff. And like, I'm trying to get to like the point, but it's also like hard to get to the point because I'm like, I don't know. But this was a really great church, right? But then, okay, so this is where it all started really. Is like, I started, okay, I'm like, so there, because I read the Bible, you know, I read the Bible. I knew like God's word. I knew Jesus's word. Like, I knew like what they would want to be preached and stuff. And I wasn't the Christian that was a hater. You know what I mean? Like, I loved everyone, like literally everyone. So while I was going to this new church, I recommended it to my brother's girlfriend's sister, and she happened to be gay. And she was like, no, I believe in God, but I don't like going to church because, you know, like how they treat me, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, no, like they won't treat you like that here. Like, this is a great church. Like, they love everyone just like Jesus would. And then she ended up going, and it was great. And like, you know, the pastors and stuff accepted her and everything. Like, you know, it was beautiful. But then like there was like afterwards, like it was like the people in the congregation, like they were just like judgmental, like, oh, like, yeah, you know, like you need to change because you're not gonna make it to heaven or whatever, blah blah blah. And it was just like, like, that's not your thing to say or bring up or whatever. Like, just accept her as she is, and if she's coming to find Jesus, just let her like be on her own journey. Like, that's not something that should be discussed, and it has nothing to do with you, you know. That's not your business. Mind your business, really. And yeah, so it was just like little things like that, and I was just like, you know. Then I moved to Hawaii, right? Like, ooh, nice, I love Hawaii. But when I was over there, I was like, I didn't stop praying or didn't stop believing in God or anything. Like, I would still like pray and stuff, but like my praying was like going to the ocean. Like, I felt serenity in the ocean, you know. I felt with God in the ocean, and like that was me praying, you know. And that was me going to church. And like there just started like people just started talking from my like the new church, like where they were like, oh, you don't go to church anymore, blah blah blah, like just like talking shit about me. And I was just like, okay, like, first of all, I'm 18. Second of all, like, I'm on vacation because it started out as a vacation, then I ended up moving there. But second of all, I'm on vacation. Third of all, like, you don't know what I do behind closed doors. Like, you're not here with me. You know, I'm just not going to your church, right? And so it was just like, you know, turn off, right? Then this is like, then I stopped going to church. I think that turned me off, and like I stopped going to church, and I was just like, okay, whatever. And then I'm trying to remember exactly like the timeline. But then basically I think this was around like Trump's era. And you could say anything you want about Trump. Like, you could be a Trump supporter or hate Trump or whatever. But no matter what Trump has done for this country, I don't care. I don't care. But I think like when Trump first became like a candidate and like stuff like that, or elected or whatever, when that was happening, he elicited so much hate. Like he brought out the racist of the racist. Even if you say, oh, Trump's not racist, whatever, he created, not created, but like let these people show racism out loud. Like they didn't have to hide anymore. They felt they could be racist in the daylight and it's okay because Trump said it is, you know? And I just like, I just realized like, you know, like this is crazy, you know? And I realized that like a lot of the, I wouldn't even say a lot, I would say literally 99% of the Christians that I knew, they were all voting for him, and they like their mindsets were backwards. And it was just like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, you know, sure, he could do this, that, whatever, or he's this, that, whatever, but he's eliciting hate. Like he is literally backing hate, putting so much hate in the world. And one time my mom told me, she was like, you just have to go with who would be like more like Jesus. And she said that would be Trump, because Trump is Christian. And I was just like, girl, if you're supposed to vote for who would be more like Jesus, just because they're Christian doesn't mean they're more like Jesus, first of all. Second of all, this man literally backs hate. Like, I don't understand what you can't comprehend, that that's not like Jesus. You know, Jesus would never hate, like, you know, certain people or put out hate in the world or want you to put out hate in the world. Like, no, I don't know what, anyways. So when this all was happening, I kind of like got disgusted with Christianity, right? So I took a break from Christianity. I took a break, and I was kind of like upset with God. I was just like, and this also like was in the time with Black Lives Matter, and I saw how like the Christians were like talking about that, and they were not backing Black Lives Matter, and they were like talking shit basically about Black Lives Matter, but like backing Trump. And it was just like, excuse me, like you got your morals messed up. And so then I was upset with God, you know? And we've all seen those movies where like when you're upset, like there's one person upset with God, and you know, then they realize God was really there the whole time, like blah blah whatever. You know, I watched those movies. I was a Jesus freak too, you know? But yeah, so I just figured that's what it was gonna be. So I would tell people like, oh yeah, like, you know, I'm just like in a quandrel with God right now, but like, you know, whatever. And yeah, but then as I was like upset with God, like, how can these be your people? How can you back these people? These are the people that are spreading the word and like supposed to bring people to you, and like, I don't know, these are your people, your disciples. I just didn't understand how a God could, those would be his people, you know? Like, I understand he loves everyone, so he would love them too, but like, those are the people? Those are the people, you know? And so then I started like, it was just like, okay, well, you know, God did say like he doesn't like religion, so Christianity like is a religion, and like you shouldn't have religion, so like I'm just gonna love God and not religion, you know? So I was like, I'm not Christian anymore. I'm just, I love God but not religion. So then, right, you know, I'm getting older, and like my brain is developing, and now I'm like 25, right? My brain's developed, and you know, I'm thinking about life and whatever, and I'm just like, like this is crazy. But yeah, I started rethinking, like, because one thing about me is I overthink everything. I overthink everything, and it's not really a bad thing. Like, I just want to understand everything. I want to understand, so I overthink until I understand, right? So I started overthinking the whole, like, my whole, like, Christianity journey, like, you know, this, that, and the other. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I know this is gonna be so controversial, and that's okay. And I'm not hating on anybody or like saying that you should not believe in this, but I'm just saying that I started looking back at my Christianity journey and realized that I was in a cult. I was in a cult. And there's no like, there's no getting around that. Like, let me look up the definition of a cult, because I actually don't know it off the hand. Okay, so a cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. Okay. So that's the definition of a cult. But if you know anything about cults, they really they prey on people who are like emotionally vulnerable. They get to be your friend or like you, like very likable people, very charismatic people. And then they like, I don't know, like kind of show you like that their way is the way, you know, like kind of prove it to you. So then you're like, oh my gosh, like this is the way, you know what I mean? So I don't think the first church that I was in was a cult. I think the second church that I was in was a cult. So I do love my pastors. I don't think they're participating in the cult type thing, but or my old pastors. They're not my pastors anymore, but everyone else in that congregation, I think, is very cult-like. And the way that I see it is very, it was a cult. Like, you know, it was a cult. That point blank period, it was a cult. So, yeah, so I started rethinking things, and there was times where like things were not even like, I don't know, like there would be things that I wouldn't even like think I had or anything like that, and then they would like kind of like whisper it in my ear in a way like where they were making me think that I had this thing, right? So then they were manipulating me basically, but they would like somehow tell me, like, you know, manipulate me into thinking that I had this thing. And then they would, when they were praying for me, then they would like rebuke it, you know? So then I'll be like, oh, like, how did you know that, you know about that thing? But like, I didn't have that thing. I didn't have it, and you just made it up, and you just convinced me that I had it, and now you're rebuking it. Like, and then like now I don't have it, you know? And it was just like, I don't know how to explain it, but I don't know, when I get in front of the camera, like one time I was talking to my mom about all this, and I just said it so good, but now that I'm talking in front of the camera, like I just like, I can't, like, I'm like, I want to explain it so well, but it's so hard. But for an example, there was this one time when, okay, so this is me getting very vulnerable, so I hope y'all understand that and like appreciate this. But I have something wrong with me, and it's still wrong with me. And okay, I'm just gonna show you. So if you see my chest, this side protrudes more than this side, and you can see the bump, right? So it's not as horrible as it used to be, but it's still there. I think now that I have boobs, it's like not as bad, but when I was skinny, it was like very noticeable. So I hated that. And it also hurt me, right? It also hurt me, and I could feel it like shifting, you know what I mean? And that hurt. Your bones are not supposed to shift. Your bones are not supposed to shift. So like it really did hurt me. And then when I would lay on my side, like sometimes this rib cage would go underneath this one, and it would hurt because that's not supposed to happen. Like they're supposed to like be like this, you know, not like inside, you know? So that would hurt. And it would, like, I just wanted to stop it, you know, like I wanted to get fixed. So we went to the doctor, right? We went to a specialist, and we like we're trying to find out what this was, and the doctors really didn't know what it was, you know. They told me a lot of like different things, and they couldn't really come up with anything. But one doctor, he said, oh, maybe it's a tumor, which doesn't even fucking make sense. It literally does not make sense. Like, how the fuck would this be a tumor if like it's... How the fuck would this be a tumor when it's literally my rib bone? Like my rib bone is moving, you know? And they were like, we're gonna take some x-rays, maybe it's like a tumor or whatever. Like they thought this like was a tumor, that's why it was protruding, but it's literally my rib bone. I knew it wasn't a tumor. I knew it wasn't a tumor. I was like, okay, you're dumb, but like, okay, I'm gonna go get the test and like the x-rays or whatever. So my mom went and told everybody that like the doctor said that, you know, it might be a tumor or like this, that, whatever. And in my head, this was when I was young, by the way, like this, I was like maybe 16 or 17, right? So in my head, I knew it wasn't a tumor. I knew it wasn't a tumor. But my mom told them that the doctor said it might be a tumor, right? That we're gonna take x-rays, right? So then my church ran with that. They, instead of saying like, oh, like it might be a tumor, okay, let's pray that it's not a tumor, they started putting in my head that I had a tumor, that I had like so much time to live, like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna die. Like they, in this 16-year-old brain, they started putting that in my head when they didn't know. We didn't know for sure. My mom literally said, the doctors think that it might be a tumor, but we're gonna take tests to make sure. They started running with that and saying, I had a tumor, I had this much time to live, like blah, blah, whatever. And as a 16-year-old girl, hearing this and like hearing people that you look up to and like trust saying this stuff, you start to believe it. You start to believe it. So when they were telling me this, I was crying like, oh my gosh, like I'm fucking dying, like I have a fucking tumor. When the doctor told me, I was like, no, like you're stupid, like I don't have a tumor, like I know it's not a tumor. But then when they said it, like they're just so convincing, and that's why I think it's a cult, because they're so convincing. They convince you that you have this thing that you don't even have, and then they rebuke it out of you, but you never even had it in the beginning. So that's exactly what they did. They manipulated me into thinking, the 16-year-old girl, into thinking that I had a tumor and all this shit, right? So then they started praying like, okay, you know, we're not gonna believe the word of the doctor, we're gonna believe the word of God. Like God says you're healed, so you don't have the tumor anymore, blah, 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 whatever, right? Anyways, so then we got the x-rays back, no tumor, right? So they were like, oh my God, like we healed you, like God is a healer, like he took the tumor out of you, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, like so great. And I was crying and like so happy and like whatever, right? Because like I believe these people. But the crazy thing is that it's still there. It's still there even to this day. It's still fucking there. How was I healed? How did they take the tumor out if the problem is still there? The problem is still there. So I don't really understand that, but that's the way that they work. Like, they're a fucking cult, and that's how they get you. That's how they get you in there. Like, there were so many people with like life altering diseases, and then they would just like live past their given date, and then like be like, oh my god, we healed you, you know? Like, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Like, I'm sorry, but no, like, you're a liar. You're a manipulator. And I feel like when I was young, because I overthink everything, right? I overthink everything in life. Like, I just like want to understand things, even things that don't revolve around me. Like, I just want to understand everything. But it's like I was looking in a light. I was looking in a light, so I could not see the whole picture. So I was looking in this light, and that was like God and Christianity and whatever, right? And I couldn't overthink it because I was so close to it, you know? And I didn't want to, you know? I loved God. I loved Jesus. And then when I started seeing the Trump and the Black Lives Matter, and started seeing like the negativity of Christianities, then it started pulling away. And that light that I thought was the sun, it was just a lamppost. It was just a fucking lamppost. So then I could start, oh my god. So once I could see that it was a lamppost, and I could overthink every single detail of the lamppost, that's when I could see the manipulation. That's when the manipulation became clear to me, and I was like, oh my god. I was a child being manipulated into thinking I had these diseases, and they were curing me when I never had those diseases. I never was diagnosed with those things. They were manipulating me into thinking that I had these, and then curing me of them when it was never there in the first place. Literally fucking crazy. But then once I realized that, like, I don't know exactly what happened, but either way, I started like, this is like very recent. I was telling my mom about this actually the other day, but this is like very recent. Like, I had been like, where like, oh, I don't really believe in anything for a while, you know, since I realized I was in a cult and I escaped it, whatever. And yeah, so I really didn't believe anything, but I did believe in manifestation. I did believe in manifestation. So I was like, I believe in the universe. Like, I don't believe there's a God, but I believe like the universe is like, you know, like the universe does stuff for me, you know. And then this year I started putting myself first, and I feel like when I put myself first, I started putting when I started putting myself first, I started getting stuff in like getting stuff back, like things that I never thought I would get, or like random stuff, things that you could say like, oh, God did. It was happening to me, and it was just like, okay, like, this is weird, especially because like I didn't believe in God anymore, so it was like whatever, right? So I started thinking like, maybe like, okay, so I haven't like really like established like the religion it's not a religion, but yeah, I haven't really like got the boundaries or anything. But basically what I believe is, I think like, because we only have access to like a certain amount of our brain functions, and like, what if we're the God? What if we're the God and we're the ones doing the things for us, like our subconscious, like we just don't know that it's happening. Like when you're praying to like, okay, Christianity, when you're praying to God, your subconscious can hear what you're saying, you know what I mean? And they can bring those things to happen. And then everybody's subconscious is like intertwined, you know? So if you're praying for like one person, it could get to them in my religion. You know, in my religion, it could get to them and like pray. But it's just like there's no like being that is like making those things happen when you pray. It's you. You're doing them. And I don't know. I don't know what that is, if that's already your religion or whatever, spirituality or whatever. But that's what I believe in. That's what I believe in. I think honestly, like we are the people. And like in the Bible, the Christianity Bible, it does say that like we have God in us and like we're the God or whatever, like stuff like that. And I think like whoever made the fucking Bible like they knew that we were the God, but they knew that people couldn't accept that responsibility. I think that's why people like created a God, so that they were like, it doesn't have to be on us, because if you're the God, then it's everything that happens in your life is you're doing, you know. And if there's a God, then you could just trust like, oh, that the God is taking care of whatever, you know, like nothing bad will happen. Even when bad things happen, like you're like, oh, this is part of a plan, you know what I mean? So you could blame it on somebody. You don't have to have the control. And I think people need that, like where they're out of control. I think people need to trust something, and that's great. I think that's beautiful. But I think that like my religion, like my thing that I just like created, it works with every single religion. Like it's the same. It's just I believe it's me instead of a being, you know, instead of Buddha or instead of this person or instead of the Greek gods or whatever, you know, like instead of one person, it's me. Like we are the God, and we're just, you know, because like I still pray to myself, like I still like manifest things, you know. I tell myself I'm beautiful, and like eventually I believe it, and then I get even more beautiful, and like it's just like it works, and it's crazy because like I don't know, I'm like, if I get shot by lightning or something, then maybe there's a God. But I just feel like it makes so much sense. Like it aligns with every religion. If you just like put the God as you, it literally like works. And I think that, like I said, I think people were just too scared of the responsibility, so they created a being that would be like their thing. But really it's us. Really we're the gods. And yeah, so that's my new religion. And comment down below if you want to join. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like whatever you believe in, I still support it. Like even though I don't believe in it, I still support it because my religion aligns with every single religion. So if you want to believe that the Hindi God or Buddha or whoever whoever is pulling the strings, you could believe that, because it's the same thing. The only things that are different is like I don't have roles, and obviously like, you know, like in y'all's thing, like I'm not gonna go to heaven or whatever, or I don't know, but it makes sense because there's so many religions in the world. Like you can't really like pick one that is like the real one, you know. Like you can say like if you were growing up in America, you could say like, oh, Christianity or Catholicism is the real one. But if you were growing up in like Middle Eastern, you could say you know, their religion is the real one, or whatever, you know, like Muslims or like Buddhists and like these things, or like the Greek gods. Like, you know, we don't know which one is the real one, but they all correlate. Like they all are the same exact religion, they just all have different roles, you know. And mine fits in there too. It's exactly the same as every religion. It's just mine has no rules, like none at all. Like I literally could live my life and not have to like go somewhere every Sunday or do this, do that, whatever. Like literally no rules. But it's the same concept. It's the same concept. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. Like tell me down below what you think about this religion, or like what you think about the concept. Yeah, anyways, I don't know. Love you guys. Bye.